Released in 2018 by Studio Arbitrary Metric, Paratopic to me is the perfect example of the lost art of the artsy-fartsy indie gaming experience. Less emphasis on game and more on experience. When we think about games, we think about completing tasks in a skillful and speedy way, packaged in a stylish and satisfying user experience. But sometimes you just want to get lost in a carefully crafted setting with bespoke set pieces, sights, and sounds. And bonus points if by the end of the experience it has a story that has you thinking, what the heck did I just play? It's definitely a cliche nowadays, especially in the indie gaming sphere, but I just love games that force you to slow down to its pace and experience it like an interactive movie. And that's what Paratopic is to me, a stylish, dreamlike experience packaged in the medium of gaming that asks for only roughly 45 minutes of your time and the entirety of your attention. The game is just under $6 and the gameplay is around, like I said, 45 minutes to maybe an hour. It's a treat that I've been coming back to every year since 2023 when it was first recommended to me on this channel. I will give one disclaimer though, about 8-ish minutes of the game is spent just driving on a road. Even for I, somebody who likes all sorts of video games, found it to drag on and be a bit excessive, at least when I first cracked this game open. However, I don't know if I should be ashamed to admit this, the driving has kind of become my favorite part of this game. You'll see what I mean when we get there.
When? No, it's calm. It's calm. Cold's too calm right now.
Why does it sound so funny? It's cold.
So please, get the game, find your nicest pair of headphones, and get lost in the story. This video will always be here in case you've played the game and you find its story confusing. And let me say, you most likely will. Apologies if I didn't give enough of a preview of what the game entails. I really rather you go in as fresh as possible. It's better that way. Now, with such a short game, it's going to warrant a shorter video compared to what I usually do. So I'm going to do something a bit different. I want to first front load what I think is significant about the game's title, Paratopic, or maybe Paratopic. Here I have listed a couple of ways we can break down the possible meaning of the title Paratopic. Let's start etymologically. We've got a prefix, para, and the suffix topic. Para to me is a very vague prefix, very like just broad in its application. Its general vibe, its general essence is when you set something against, besides, or alongside something. So it can mean something like, you're actually working against something, like parachute. Shoot meaning to fall, so a parachute is a device that works against falling. Parasite, I forget what sight means, but I think it means consumption or to eat. So you're eating against something. You're eating at the detriment of a host. But it doesn't always have to be like against, at odds with. Sometimes it's just comparison, parallel lines, or a paragon among many. An exceptional person that you compare to their peers. But then sometimes it's fully complementary. So like totally opposite to, at odds with, paramilitary, paralegal. Maybe I'm misguided, but to me, it's a very nebulous term. So let's comfortably reside in just, for the purposes of our video, defining para, in the case of Paratopic, as at odds with. Topic, on the other hand, is much more simpler to break down. Coming from the Greek topos, just meaning a place, a location, a position maybe. Ectopic pregnancy, it's a pregnancy taking place away from... Let me make sure I don't mess this up, hold on. It's specifically when the egg is fertilized away from the required location of the uteral lining. I think typically an ectopic pregnancy, it could be like in the fallopian tube, something like that. Brutal stuff. But the operating concept is topic. It's an abnormal place for the fertilization to take place. Topography, simply studying or charting out maps, locations. I always thought it was called topography because you're getting a bird's eye view, so you're looking at it from top down. Maybe there's some linking there, but I think that's just a coincidence. That's me filling in the blanks. So anyways, topic, I would say place, location, position. That's easy enough. Para, let's comfortably reside in, at odds with. So the faithful interpretation would be Paratopic at odds with a position, or at odds with the very concept of positional reality. And see, I'm getting floppy with it. So My personal floppy definition would be paratopic, at odds with time and space. And I think we'll come to learn that this is probably the most accurate one. However, maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe paratopic is meant to just be a slant rhyme with paratrophic. You know, this is just kind of me trying to give like a counter argument, and obviously it's not even that fleshed out, but this concept, paratrophic, something that gathers nutrition from, feeds on something. So like, in my kind of just cursory research as to when this word is used, from what I gather, it's when something can be described as parasitic, but it's not a parasite. So like a virus that feeds on something, a bacteria that feeds on something, something that acts like a parasite, it's paratrophic, but it's not a parasite, because a parasite has to be like an actual organism, like a little wormy, taily thing. That's my Plague Inc. education. But yeah, this concept of something parasitic, something hidden among a host, an information, a topic, if you will, a cognitohazardous concept, does sort of, I think it's a coincidence, but does play a role in a lot of the plot of Paratopic. But I think ultimately this is where we should be. Something set against, at odds with, locational reality. Hold on to this for now. Starting up the game, we have a very stylish menu screen, overlaid with a sort of a crunchy pixel effect. To the right, we have a fascinating symbol. What does it look like to you? To me, I first noticed it resembling a sort of electrical pylon, or perhaps a cell tower. However, as your gaze starts to kind of zoom out, it starts to look like an occult symbol, the bottom portion giving me strong Leviathan vibes. However, it may be flipped around for you. You may have first saw a strange satanic symbol, but then started to see the resemblance of a tower or pylon. Both the strangeness in the occult and the mundaneness in the infrastructural will play a role in how we explore one of the core, factions of this game, the power company. However, let's not limit ourselves to electricity. You know, on another good second look of the symbol, it almost resembles to me like a cell tower, or it's like a satellite tower rather than like a power pylon. And don't get me wrong, we're still going to work with a lot of, electrical themes, what with this enigmatic power company. However, maybe there's something, triangulation-based, location-based about this symbol that truly is like sort of emblematic of the title Paratopic, the occult mixed with something that we associate with location. Topic-based, topographical, topo chico. Now, there are no options for loading or resuming because, as it's revealed when we start a playthrough, the game is meant to be enjoyed in a single sitting. Like I said, roughly like 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long you spend exploring each level. Now, the game opens with the tail end of an interrogation of sorts. We're being caught up, in both ways, by customs or a border patrol.
You have an enemy, friendo.
What?
We got a call about you. Undeclared goods, they said.
First off, I love the style of dialogue in this game. Just these chopped up burpy voices. But yes, our character is caught by customs with undeclared goods. We'll learn more about said goods soon. However, many Paratopic fans may have overlooked this small detail. Somebody made an anonymous tip against us. We were ratted out. You have an enemy, friendo.
I don't know what you're talking about. Then why did a concerned citizen feel the need to warn us about you? Well, I had to try. Yeah, well, that ain't gonna work out for you, bucko. There are procedures to follow. It's a crime not to. We say nothing. We're pretty full up, busy night and all. No cameras out here. You think your lawyer's gonna stop me from checking out these tapes?
This emphasis on no cameras being around kind of feels intentional. There will certainly be some emphasis on security cameras at a later point in this game, but here it's revealed that the thing being smuggled is tapes.
I want my lawyer. Smugglers like you slip through the cracks all the time in processing. Nobody's gonna save you.
Now he walks away to take a look at what the contents of the tapes are. Before seeing the end of the sequence though, I want to dig into some of the, different dialogue options. In my second batch of game footage, we ask about the person that ratted us out.
Who said? Your enemy. Someone clearly don't like you, friendo. And who's that? Beats me, but here's how it works. You people come through here, you show us the forms and everything is fine, but you didn't. Now why is that? I forgot. If that were true, then why did a concerned citizen leave us a tip about your cargo? Get me my lawyer. You think you're so smart.
If we try and downplay the tapes...
They're just tapes, man. What, home movies? And no one will care if I watch them. You really shouldn't.
We'll see why he shouldn't in a moment, but the sequence ends just the same. I think it should be noted that the nature of this stop is purely based on this tip. The agent doesn't know what the significance of these tapes are, just that they weren't declared at the border for some reason, and that this random tip called it in. It's a small detail, but I feel like it's significant to point it out so that we can appreciate kind of the sort of strings being played beyond the story. In my fourth playthrough, I play it more tight-lipped, choosing the silent dialogues and then requesting my lawyer when no silent option is given. Nothing new is emphasized in this dialogue, however, I believe doing this specific chain of dialogue gets you a special achievement. In my third batch of footage, I explore some more appeasing dialogue.
We got a call about you, undeclared goods, they said. Right, I'm sure we can work something out. It's long past the time to fill out the proper forms, unless you meant a bribe. And that's a criminal offense. You the offensive type? Guess not. Want to tell me why you thought you could smuggle something across the border?
I wanted to emphasize this detail because this IDs this character that we're playing as a sort of smuggler of these tapes. This was no accident, we were caught. But enough digging into the minutia of this opening sequence. When the agent takes a look at what's on these tapes, what happens?
Wait, don't watch the tapes. You can't stop me. You really shouldn't.
The sequence ends there. Not good though, at least for the agent. We cut to a sort of opening credits and phone call dialogue, but let's first take some inventory. One of the goals of this video is to put together a chronological sequence of Paratopic's events. Now, while we don't have enough data to place this particular event in relation to other events, I'll go ahead and chart it right now. For now, let's use this opportunity to ask ourselves some questions. Who are we playing as? At least in this opening introduction, this interrogation. What is the nature of these tapes, and who ratted us out? We have an enemy, friendo. Now, outside the window of what we'll come to learn is a diner, we see what looks like a cadaver, a body being fed upon by crows. This could just be some macabre set dressing, or perhaps it's a character we've yet to meet. The end of the game bleeding into the beginning of the game. Very paratopic. Now, the dialogue taking place on the phone is signified by slightly differing colored subtitles that, if you watch this channel long enough, you know I couldn't make heads or tails of it. But luckily, there's a clearly masculine voice on the phone, and I believe we are playing as what I can make out to be a very muffled feminine voice. I'll reveal this now. This is a character that's different than the smuggler that we took the perspective of in the opening scene. Okay, enough. Let me just play this out first.
Yeah. I'm here. All right, ready to go? Just about. Have you said your mantra? Yes. Good, babe. That's what I like to hear. We do this every time. Yeah. Look, not much to say this time. Bring us every trace. Maid service on standby. Can you handle it? You really have to ask? Atta girl. Nerves of steel. Your hike go okay? Yeah. I'm an outdoors woman. Usual place then.
Okay, clearly the gun and sort of vague speak to me indicates a wet work assignment. In other words, assassination. Let's break this apart bit by bit. The first few bits of dialogue to me indicates that this diner is the location of her assignment. That will be evident very shortly. I'm here, ready to go, etc. The question we're then asked, have you said your mantra? It's very peculiar. What is the mantra? The ellipses or ... that precedes our characters, yes, kind of indicates to me that this is something she does kind of begrudgingly. Some ceremonial step that she wishes she could just skip over to get to the good stuff. But I don't know. We're not going to get to know what this mantra is. It's just some vague, mysterious occult talk to kind of build the world beyond the bounds of what we, the player, get to access. It's a great way to bolster the mystery. Now, he's referring to her as babe, and her seeming kind of impatient. You know, there's kind of this dynamic, patronizing guy, and it's kind of like, yeah, whatever type thing. I think to me indicates that she's done this before many times, and she's got like this sort of like, let's get down to business sort of vibe. A professional. The guy on the phone clarifies her assignment. Not much to say, or perhaps not different from previous assignments. Bring us every trace. Maid service on standby. Can you handle it? Okay, so maybe it's not an assassination. She's removing traces of something. Maybe traces of the tape and whatever data they contain. Perhaps the gun, the ominous implication of a cleanup crew just implies that violence may be necessary for this assignment, but it's not the key ingredient. And this will ultimately be demystified by the end of the game. Here's a super key detail here though. It's not as quite easy to miss, but it's still very interesting. Before our mercenary is of course a gun, 6 bullets, and a camera. First off, the 6 bullets are quite ominous because from where we're sitting, there are clearly 4 of these like shadow people we can make out. However, when we get a different view of inside this diner, we'll see that in the booth in front of us, there will be 2 shadow people sitting across from each other. So in total, 5 of these shadow people plus the primary target that we'll be seeing quite soon. More on that in a moment. However, what we should be keeping in mind more long term is the camera in front of us. This key ingredient places this sequence later in the timeline than we may have initially anticipated when first playing this game. I'm just throwing that out there. We'll get into that much later. Loading our 6 bullets into our revolver, the view changes to a different character, also receiving a sort of assignment. Again, I'm going to say this now, I believe in this case we're taking the perspective of that smuggler from the opening scene. So we've got a tape smuggler and a gun lady. 2 different characters. Now let's play this out.
You will follow these instructions. You will not deviate. You saw what happened last time. You will be professional. Yes, sir. Professionalism. Just what I like to hear. Of course. Good. A professional response. You won't be picking up the tapes here. We've left them in your apartment. We have a key.
This will make more sense in an upcoming apartment sequence, but yes, these mysterious associates are dropping off some tapes at our domicile, evidently for us to pick up.
We say nothing. You should have told us, though. About what? You don't need to play stupid with me. Oh. Yes, not a good look. We knew, of course, but we expected you to be professional with us. You must be completely open. I'm sorry. Tell us everything, every time, like a professional. We acquiesce. They're like dogs. Sometimes you have to throw them some scraps. We've given you some scraps to share. All right. Cross the border and deliver the goods to the regular places. Whatever you do, don't watch them. He's referring to the tapes. We'll know if you do. Yes, sir.
The view quickly cuts back to our gun lady standing up from her booth with the gun in her hand, but let's first go back. There's a lot there. First off, real quick, you can see 2 people in the booth behind our interlocutor. Again, bringing the amount of shadow people in this diner up to 5. And the fact that when the gun lady stands up and all the shadow people are gone, to me indicates that maybe she killed whoever was in that diner during whatever sequence this event represents. But let's rewind a bit again. Back to our smuggler's manager. He's speaking very vaguely. Something about last time was a hinky. Our smuggler messed something up. You should have told us. Be open. Tell us everything. A first-time player may be tempted to think that this is clearly in reference to getting caught at the border, that first sequence. However, our underboss clarifies that they give us scraps for this very reason. Among the tapes, there are scraps for dogs. Now keep this in mind, this statement he makes directly after this is linked. Don't watch the tapes, we'll know if you do. So among the tapes there are scraps, or perhaps disposable lower stakes contraband, but then there are more important tapes that should not be viewed. Now, we were particularly professional in that dialogue. If instead we asked, why me, being argumentative with our station in the smuggler life,
you will be professional. Why me? There are debts, and they will be paid. They're not my debts. They're yours now. We cleared this up twice. Be professional. Life works out better that way.
So our smuggler is evidently working off debts, not of his own taking, but somebody else's. We've been through this twice, so clearly this shadowy group has made him smuggle these tapes twice, I'm assuming to pay off these debts, but with no end in sight. Not good. When our manager chastises us for that mysterious failure or misstep, you should have told us.
You should have told us, though. About what? You don't need to play stupid with me. We'll pick two. I didn't know. Be professional. Liars aren't professionals, unless you're a professional liar. Then I would have a different job for you. We knew, of course, but we expected you to be professional with us. You must be completely open. But you knew already. We demand your loyalty and discretion in all matters. Nonetheless, we acquiesce.
Similarly, before, we have no choice but to acquiesce, or meekly comply. At the moment, we're not sure of the nature of how our smuggler may have misstepped in the previous assignments, but we'll learn soon enough. If in our dialogue we consistently stay silent, he lauds us for our professionalism.
Professionalism. Just what I like to hear. Good. A professional response. Be professional. Liars aren't professionals. Unless you're a professional liar, then I have a different job for you. We already knew, of course, but we expected you to be professional with us. You gotta be completely open. Do you know another word? Referring to professional, of course. That's not professional.
And, like always, we acquiesce. The big takeaway is as follows. We are to smuggle these tapes across the border, not watch them, and evidently not have others watch them, like what was done in that opening border interrogation sequence. Smaller detail, we've been given scraps to use to our discretion. Before taking some well overdue inventory, let's check back in with the gun lady. After our smuggler acquiesces, our gun lady stands up from the table with her gun. The diner is totally empty. Not only that, the camera is gone. Chances are she's just holding on to it, stowed away in her video game inventory. That being said, with the missing camera, with nobody in the lobby, we also have no more cadaver outside being eaten by crows. I don't know, maybe this implies that that phone call taking place long before what's happening now. I'm gonna chalk it up to something stylistic that we shouldn't overthink. But hey, speaking of overthinking, we got some zodiac cards lying on the table. It's easy to write these off as just set dressing, but maybe there's something here. To the left, we have standing next to each other, Aries and Taurus, two horned animals proximal to one another on that zodiac calendar. However, they represent different things. Aries is defined by the element of fire. I consider it symbolically a driving, offensive archetype, wanting to obtain, while Taurus, defined by the element of earth, to me more symbolizes a nurturing, defensive archetype of wanting to maintain. I think these are meant to symbolize our two... yes. Oh, it's got, yes. The tapes. I'm snapping, my bad. I'm trying not to snap in the mic as often, but you can't, sometimes you're, anyways, so yes, the ram of Aries and the bull of Taurus, respectively obtain and maintain. I think these are meant to symbolize our two main characters, our smuggler and our gun lady. In the middle we have an elevated and tilted Scorpio card. Scorpio is a water symbol, so this could simply signify a body of water, a river, that will act as one core set piece in a major sequence of this game. However, the intimidating scorpion that attacks when encroached upon could foreshadow a strange being that we've yet to come across. Or maybe it's meant to symbolize a third minor character, the tilted nature of the card signifying a fate different from the other two main characters. I'll say it now, death. And finally, two air cards tilted to the side stacking upon each other, parallel. Beneath is Libra and the top is Aquarius. I think this is meant to symbolize a sort of power pylon or a cell tower. The scales of Libra kind of resemble the shape of many pylons we're familiar with, and the simplified symbol of Aquarius evokes the image of those sort of David Lynchian waveforms, signals, airwaves, electricity. But nothing to discover here, it's just a fun set piece that I think many fans of the game may have overlooked. That's if I'm even on the mark. I could just be looking for patterns. For on the other side of the table, we just have these super pixelized and large, what looks like prayer cards. They're too obscure to really make out, so this could really all just be vague, spiritual, and occult set dressing. Going back to the plot, I'm tempted to think that our gun lady waited till right before closing time, which would explain why everybody is gone and the chairs are put up, and even the register looks empty. Before concluding the sequence, I want to give props to the art direction of this game. Everything you look at, combined with the noises and the music, just oozes that, you know, this is an overused term, but I gotta say it, liminal, dreamlike vibe. Like, they didn't have to add the blinking neon sound effect here. But they did. And that little touch, it's just so appreciated. Anyways, where were we? Oh yes, robbery! Now, we'll get a better look at this room later in the video, but this is the assignment of our gun lady, this back room to the diner with that pylon diagram, as well as the company logo of a faction we've yet to meet, kind of faded onto it. The held up man wears a similar outfit too, to that smuggler's handler, so maybe they're connected. I say this because even in this quick shot, we can see a stack of tapes. Now, let's take inventory. First off, what's the gun lady's assignment? I think clearly, based on this bring us every trace line, she's meant to steal, secure every trace of these tapes. But killing's not off the table. What with all that talk about maid service, a euphemism for, a cleanup crew, wet works. But I gotta say, there's something about that line, bring us every trace, that just continues to call to me. This emphasis on trace. Not just say, just get us what you can get, steal all the jewelry, steal all the gold, all the money. It's the complete seizing of these tapes, the complete seizing of whatever this diner operation is trying to distribute through, evidently, the smuggler. More on him later. Next up, who is this gun lady's partner or boss? Who's giving her these assignments, this guy on the phone? Well, clearly, whatever side she is on is either hostile towards or against the interest of this diner operation. Their staff and whatever company they represent, that strange logo on the chalkboard we saw. But for now, and I think for the remainder of this game, as far as the interests of the gun lady, or whatever interest she represents with that voice on the phone, I don't think we're going to get much of a concrete answer to that. We'll still speculate, but like I said, not concrete. Luckily, things are a lot easier to follow with the smuggler. First question, what's his assignment? Explicitly, smuggling tapes past the border. Implicitly, the safe spread of these tapes. Making sure not just anybody watches the tapes. There's clearly something mimetic, cognito-based going on here. Watching the tapes carrying some sort of gravity. Also, there's this implication of the smuggler working off debts, not just debts that he has accrued, but debts that he inherited. Debts to this strange company, which brings me to my next question. What is this company? Or, in other words, who is the smuggler's boss? The shape that I'm seeing here is you have this diner that's working as a sort of satellite splinter operation of whatever company is represented by these symbols. That sort of pseudo power button kind of symbol, which is kind of a corporatized version of this occult symbol that we saw in the main menu. What we saw on the chalkboard. I've already kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but just keep in mind this concept of this power company. What we do know for certain is the separate assignments of our two characters, the gun lady and the smuggler. I'm of the mind actually that the diner assignment that the smuggler gets takes place in a different time in this confusing timeline than the phone call our gun lady gets, but that's neither here nor there. Given the nature of these whiteboard segments, you may have an idea as to where I'm placing these in our our timeline, our sequence of events, but don't make any assumptions. The shape of the story is quite fitting, I'll just say that. For now, let's just enjoy the high strangeness of this paratopic sequence of events. With the passing of the title card, we now stand inside the lobby of an apartment complex. We can't make out much of the outside, but the inside is quite dilapidated. We can also interact with a cigarette to get an achievement. Perhaps this belongs to one of our apartment neighbors. She's the only character I'm aware of that's seen smoking. The only way forward in this sequence is through the elevator. Before we ascend, let's keep a couple of things in mind. We'll be able to suss out that we are playing as the smuggler here. Their assignment is to pick up a package left by their company in the apartment. Recall two statements made. You should have told us. This implication that the smuggler messed up on his previous assignment, overstepped the boundary of the assignment. And then also the statement, they're like dogs. We've given you scraps to share. This line is connected to said mess up. A remedy, I guess. Fantastic transition. To our left, we can see our neighbor smoking, but going to our right, we can see some truly grim interior redecorating. The ceiling is totally gutted and just exposed, caution tape, a dilapidated communal washroom, and inside that washroom, to the left, there's this little corner with like exposed pipes that give off like a very airy noise. Again, like the sound effects of that blinking neon sign, it's a small detail that I just absolutely appreciate. Now, we can interact with various shower or just plumbing valves. There's a stall that seems jammed, or perhaps somebody is lingering on the other side. Not sure. At the sinks, the faucet on the right is the only one that dispenses anything. However, it's just a burst of black sludge. Gross. If we interact with the mirror, however, we reveal a hidden compartment.
Almost out, but it's a tape.
So the tapes are consumed in this, how do you even say it? Like a disposable manner. Every time you watch and rewind a VHS tape, it very, very, very slightly and very, very slowly degrades. However, really, minor like scratches and blemishes and little like things you'll see on the tape take hundreds, if not thousands of playthroughs and rewinds to actually start showing up. Frankly, I think time is a more reliable degrader than actual usage, but this is only what I've been able to gather from the internet and various forum discussions. However, if these tapes are being consumed at such rates that they are basically, almost out, there's nothing left on the tape, we're talking like inconceivable amounts of, consumption of these tapes. It's like a drug. The repetitive usage over and over and over and over again until you've completely broken past minor blemishes and scratches. It's just fuzzy nothingness. Fuzzy wuzzy nothingness. Shit! We approach our neighbor, smoking her cigarette. She comments on the men who came through and dropped off our contraband. So I think it's safe to say this is continuing from the diner debriefing.
Some men were here earlier, got into your apartment. Didn't recognize them. Maybe it was exterminators. Well, that's a first. I called them myself. Bullshit! Management didn't authorize us for that. Yeah, well, I got permission. You must think I'm stupid. We say nothing.
Here's what she says if we say that they're friends.
Some men were here earlier, got into your apartment. Didn't recognize him. Oh, that was just a friend. Friend dropped off something big for you. Thanks for letting me know.
Something big, huh? How many tapes are we talking here? Here's another dialogue chain.
Some men were here earlier, got into your apartment. Didn't recognize him. Mind keeping it between us? Sure, but I need a favor. Again? Just one. I'll keep quiet. Come on, think about it. We'll see.
Aha. So she wants a tape. Perhaps the one in the bathroom was hers. Almost out. Given that there's this emphasis on again, a favor being done for this neighbor again, this must be the mistake or the overstepping that the smuggler was being chastised for from that, I call him the diner assigner. However, said diner assigner did say that he gives us these scraps for dogs for this very reason. So when we share said scraps for dogs to placate our addicted interlocutors, what happens? After taking a look around, rummaging through some boxes, our package sits on our mattress. However, we must turn on a light to click open its latches. Nice touch. The illuminated box shows that strange symbol. Not the occult symbol, mind you, but that faded company logo. Now kind of striking me as the ubiquitous power symbol. Power button, power company. I get it. Of course, within our crate.
It's tape, isn't it?
It's tapes, isn't it? Knock first. Give us a tape. I shouldn't. When has that ever stopped you? I didn't know. You don't know shit. Look, I'm not supposed to.
What didn't he know? The nature of the tapes? The effects that they have on people? Their perhaps addictive nature? Also, this might not be intentional, but I really like the back and forth here. I didn't know. You don't know shit. I'm not supposed to. Like, of course, I'm not supposed to give you the tapes, but also, I'm not supposed to know shit or know anything. Like, I'm not supposed to be cognizant of the nature of these tapes. But yes, when we say we aren't supposed to...
Come on, you've always been good to me before. I'm starving. I really shouldn't. I reckon you don't want nobody hearing about your friends, so think she's threatening us. Can't you watch the one I copied last time? I used it up. It's just static now. You got a whole lot there now. Just one tape, and I won't say a thing. Alright, just one, but you gotta make it last. Give me the juicy one. What? You got a good one in there. I want it. I can't give you that one. Can't you feel it? I have to give it to someone else, or they won't let me bring you any more tapes. Act like you care. You can have this other one for now. Question is, what do we give her?
So in that chain of dialogue, we relent and give her a tape. She identifies a juicy one, but instead we give her one of the scraps that our bosses gave to us to share with discretion. Before we see what happens when she watches the tape, let's explore some other dialogue.
It's tapes, isn't it? Oh, you need something? I need another one. No. Fuck you. What's stopping you this time?
There's some emphasis on the again of all of that, the pattern of her reliance on us for her tape fix. The dialogue goes on, as we already seen, until we make our final decision.
No, I can't. Who's gonna miss just one? Oh, they will. Don't be an idiot. I found out last time. You still owe me. You can't change my mind. Oh, I will.
Since we refused, it immediately cuts to the next sequence, a driving sequence. But real quick, one more piece. If we instead say, no, I won't, not no, I can't, she gets angry with us.
No, I won't. Fuck you. You can't change my mind. I will.
But that's the only difference, really. I just wanted to be thorough. Of course, let's go back to that footage. I want to see what happens when we give her that tape.
You can have this other one for now. Question is, what do we give her? Just a box of tapes.
Very cool. Brutal, but cool. Her face like pops out and like her head blossoms into like these petals. And just the kind of the way that she kind of deflates, but she's not dead. She's like deflating and kind of breathing. To me, evokes kind of like nodding off after like a hit of some sort of drug. Now I wonder what happened to that Border Patrol guy. If this is what happens when she gets a hit of these scraps, I wonder what looking at the real deal, the juicy tape, gets you. Now, it's after this extra scene we cut to one of three sort of punctuating driving sequences. Before going on our road trip, however, let's take some inventory. There are a few aspects that stick out to me when it comes to these tapes. They're treated like a sort of sustenance. Our addicted neighbor saying something around the lines of, give us a tape, I'm starving. But there's also this clear substance abuse angle, this drug angle. It alters the body. It makes its user experience both this body horror, but what looks like a sort of euphoria, or at the very least, our neighbor is sort of nodding off after her transformation. But we're talking about this like it's a consumable drug, something that is consumed through either the mouth or through the veins, but it's not. It's administered through experiencing tapes. The medium of this consumed drug is through experience, mimetically, cognito-based. And as I've already said, there's this implied constant repetition of consuming and consuming and consuming until the tape is almost out. But on top of this phrase, jumbling in my head, I still keep thinking about that phrase, bring us every trace. I'm reminded of this concept of Gestaltzerfall. you continue to expose yourself to something until it all becomes one mess, indiscernible. Paratopic. I think it's safe to place this apartment pickup sequence after the diner assignment sequence. And while there's a possibility that the border patrol or customs interrogation takes place maybe before all that stuff, I personally believe it's more likely this takes place later in the timeline. I don't want to show my hand too hard here, but when he says, "You've got an enemy, friendo," the customs agent guy, I think he's referring to the gun lady. She's the one that ratted the smuggler out. Like I said, let's not focus too much on the timeline right now. I'm just charting it out for now. But let's just enjoy the high strangeness. There is a shape forming, though. Now, I've already touched on this, but I want to reiterate, this game is not supposed to be treated like a typical game where doing something correctly and with skill gets you to the end faster and in a more satisfying way. And listen, these driving sequences do feel like they drag on the longest out of all the sequences, because there's nothing you can really do to make them go by faster. Maybe you can accelerate a little bit with the W key, but it doesn't do much in my experience. For this reason, Paratopic should be seen as a storytelling experience. I think that these drives are quite important to said experience. We get to feel the humming of the passing road, the buzz of the radio, either the nonsensical babbling of a podcast or talk show.
They came on the bomb. But you called all the pots.
You got cold and cable, cold feet on your cold slugging, cold.
So color
Or this oddly uncanny tune. Whether we're playing as the smuggler or gun lady is left up to the player's interpretation. Looking to our right, we can see a box with that symbol on it. This would indicate the smuggler being behind the wheel, but sometimes we might see the box disappear, and in its place, a gun, signifying the gun lady being the one behind the wheel. The highway is the monotonous through line that connects the events of Paratopic, the fates of our two characters. Now, if you recall, I mentioned that sometimes in the passenger seat we may see the smuggler's box and our gun lady's gun. However, sometimes there might not be something in the passenger seat. This could just be leaning into the ambiguity of who's behind the wheel. It could be both. But it could also imply the presence of a third character in this story. Her signature item is likely in the trunk. I'll say this now. It's that camera that we saw on the table of our gun lady. I'm moving a bit too fast. I'll just leave it at that for now. After a handful of minutes of driving, we appear in a gas station. In this first sequence, we don't see the car outside, which is odd. I think we're supposed to be filling up at one of the pumps. We'll see our car in the second gas station sequence, so maybe its omission here means something. I don't know. We've got a vending machine, which I believe dispenses energy drinks, but maybe some other pick-me-ups, not sure. My favorite aspect is that we can fondle the various packaged items in the store and rotate them L.A. Noire style.
Potato chips. Some sort of, I think it's buildings in a box.
Those noises are just so good. It makes me want to get my snack on. Now, based on what we last interact with, the attendant makes a comment. Do you mind? Now, like I was saying, based on what we last interacted with, the attendant makes a comment. Evidently, we just interacted with cereal because...
That cereal won't do much good without milk. We say nothing. Find everything okay? You got any of that lowland milk, that lower hair milk? Nah, truck usually comes on Mondays. What's cheap? Well, we got a 12-hour Spitfire, Beasled Bub, and Auntie M's Old Remedy. Anyone that you'd recommend? I'd go with Auntie M's. She makes it over in Rio Laredo. Local stuff, then. Family, too. No kidding. No kidding. What's it taste like? She's got a lot of flavors. Strawberry, gooseberry, blackberry. Which one do you want? That's a lot of berries. Yep, she's got a greenhouse. You want some? Let's do strawberry. Vending machine's over there in the far corner. Self-serve. All right, I'll be right back. I'm not going anywhere.
This is like a little semi-secret bit of dialogue that unlocks an optional sequence with an achievement attached to it. We go to the vending machine to procure some anti-Ms, evidently some sort of caffeine supplement, amphetamine, or tianeptine product. Most likely, based on the fact that there are flavorings, it's a caffeine shot. But yes, the vending machine eats our money. Repeatedly clicking on it causes our character to kick or throttle it, and I believe this is what gets us the achievement. What's the significance of this subsequence? I think it just helps emphasize the length of these drives that our smuggler or assassin or somebody else is going on, needing to get some industrial grade caffeine in them. The handful of minutes that we experience as a player is a mercy. Okay, this is a last minute realization, but it's kind of nuts. So, we're given the names, 3 names for 3 caffeine supplements. In other words, energy supplements. These supplements given names possibly with demonic sort of puns or origin. So, energy given to us by demons. Remember that energy company, that power company? Keep that in mind. There's going to be a merging of energy with the demonic, or at least the occult. We've already seen it, but we're going to get some more folding in. And so these supplements, these caffeine supplements, might be kind of a wink and a nod that I think many of the players might have overlooked. That's a side keep in mind. Let's dig into these names. The most obvious one he gives is Beasley Bub, obviously referring to Beelzebub, the big bad guy in Tenacious D. But it's really just a kind of always a throwaway name given to any sort of big bad demon character, like we refer to any kind of bad guy as Satan or whatever the hell. Now, when Googling the sigil for Beelzebub, oddly enough, it looks very similar, if not identical, to the sigil of Baal. But comparing the symbols next to each other, you can kind of see a bit of a similarity. The stems and the legs and the tower, you know, the structure, the circular structuring, this is probably the strongest to the Paratopic symbol. But what about those other 2 names, Spitfire and Anti-Ms? Well, in the Ars Goetia, I think otherwise also known as the Key of Solomon, kind of like a demonology book. I think it was written by Crowley. I don't know. Maybe Solomon Grundy. I don't know. I found a demon called Marcosius, a sort of demon marquis of hell. From what I can find on Wikipedia, in Aleister Crowley's and I think what was the other guy's name? Mather's Lesser Key of Solomon, which, like I said, I think is the same thing as the Ars Goetia. Not sure though. Marcosius is described as puking and spitting fire. And while Baal's sigil, or Beelzebub's sigil, can be kind of, compared to the lower half of the occult version of the Paratopic symbol, the bottom part of Marcosius, his sigil, honestly is like an inversion of what we see at the bottom here, but then you've got like a towering kind of aspect, maybe a little bit of that flowering or that kind of wave type thing is maybe the wave forms at the top. Again, very, very similar. Okay, so we have Baal, or Beelzebub, and then we have Marcosius. Who the hell is Anti-Ms? Well, M is spelled out E-M, phonetically the letter M. And this one's kind of a shot in the dark. I might be biased because I missed the days of when I covered Faith, but I'm thinking Malthus. I'm thinking Arby's. for a couple of reasons. Looking at the Malthus symbol, we can see a cross at the bottom, which we can somewhat compare to this sort of patriarchal cross at the bottom. But it's so asymmetrical, I have a hard time really kind of tacking it onto the Paratopic symbol. However, I am particularly attached to maybe thinking that Anti-Ms is a reference to Malthus, because Malthus is commonly depicted as a guy with a crow's head. Crows are going to play a very core part to a later sequence in this game when we explore a forest. Crows that lead to a certain character's doom. Also, one more thing. Malthus also builds towers, apparently. I wonder if cell towers also apply to that. Maybe my final appraisal as to what demon could be linked to each of these energy brands is incorrect. However, this linking between energy, of course in this case energy drinks, and the demonic, I think might help in a sort of a Lynchian, implicit, symbolic way explain what we will come to learn befell this elusive power company. Again, the company that I believe is behind this diner operation and the proliferation of tapes. Anyways, we continue with the attendee.
Where's the nearest place to eat before the border? Nearest place open this late is Burger Bill's. Closer to the border, you got more places, though. What do you like? Where's Burger Bill? Burger Bill's is down 69th. You can't miss it. It has a big purple sign. Gave Frank a seizure one time, so don't flash no more. Down the street here? Yeah. Thanks.
You know, it now occurs to me, I wonder if Burger Bill's is that diner that we're familiar with. There seems to be a strong emphasis on this burger joint and its proximity to where we are, like at the gas station, like inland from the border. Assuming the diner is Burger Bill's and it's just down the street from this gas station, I feel like that would help emphasize the trek that the smuggler would have gone on to make it to the border with his tapes, and vice versa, the assassin to the diner. There's stuff. Oh, there's some good stuff there. Oh, that's really good stuff. Like the tape. It's like one's going this way, the other's going that way. One's supplying, one is taking in. The tapes. I'm sorry, forgive me. Maybe it's not super important, but I guess it just helps us appreciate the implicit scale of the story and its happenings. Remember, the topic, location, the distance between these points. It really, when you understand this, the driving segments really are just a part of the experience. Enough of my pretensions. Let's continue on with our conversation.
Need anything to keep you going? No thanks. Well, that'll be everything? Actually, I might be passing through late on my way back. Any place good to stay around here? Well, there's not much around here. Super 16 burned down a while ago. There's a Mesquite and Ranchero. They're both down the highway, a couple miles. Big signposts. Ordinary change, really. Nothing special. The Super 16th burned down? Yeah. Bummer. And that was my usual spot. So then why'd you ask what's a good place around here to stay then? I don't know, I never tried to stop anywhere else. Well, you enjoyed it while it lasted. Man.
Okay, one thing you may notice with these gas station conversations is that when it seems a conversation is about to close, somebody comes up with a new inquiry to follow. It's just so real. Like, it really has that mundane road trip vibe. Anyways, something of note, our character asks for any good places to stay, but then reveals the Super 16 as their usual rest stop. The attendee then presses our character on this seeming inconsistency. Why ask where there's a good place to stay when we already have a go-to spot? Now, honestly, at first I thought this little inconsistency with these sort of confusing responses, never tried anywhere else, and thought I'd try something new, made me think how we responded dictated whether we were playing as the smuggler or gun lady. The smuggler is more a local, and the gun lady a drifter. But the more I think about it, the more likely it is that this is just supposed to simulate like those relatable moments where you'll just ask a stranger a question just to feel less lonely on a road trip. I don't know. Sometimes you're just fixing to wish somebody a good morning.
I hear that. Your friend still filling up out there? Huh? Where you headed? We don't answer. I guess I should mind my own business. It's all right.
Couple things to note. First off, the next sequence shows our car at night, parked on the side of the road. We'll address this soon, but going back, the attendee mentions our friend filling up, which is just so confusing. We don't have a friend out there, let alone even our car at a pump. Perhaps this is meant to add a level of dreamlike confusion, maybe foreshadowing some new set pieces in the second gas station sequence. Now, when he asks us where we are headed, we have a couple of options that are labeled as lies: driving dune buggies with friends and going sightseeing across the border. If I wanted to continue with my theory that these gas station sequences are meant to be ambiguous, either the smuggler or gun lady making a pit stop, we can perhaps see these two lies as associated with the two characters. Maybe. I'll keep this in mind. Now, circling back, let's try and find some extra dialogue we may have missed. If we opt for something aside from burgers, regardless if we prefer pizza, Mexican food, or chicken, he'll mention that those extra options are closer to the border. Again, I think helping emphasize that this burger place, maybe that diner, is more distant from the key destination in this story, the border, and a forest associated with it. We can also ask him about what he's reading.
What are you reading? It's a book by some guy named Eric. It's about how aliens are better than us. But aliens don't exist. That's what you think. You saying I'm wrong? If you don't believe in aliens, yeah, you're wrong. He thinks aliens are better than us? Yeah, basically aliens can travel between planets, right? So they must be smarter than us, and they haven't even enslaved or colonized us yet. So that must mean that they're better than us morally. Wouldn't the same be true if aliens didn't exist? They do exist, I've seen them. How do you know it was an alien? Well, I don't know for sure, but it didn't look like no person.
Could be foreshadowing a strange alien, a potentially hostile being that we'll be meeting soon.
Anyways, you were saying that they're better than us. Yeah, not just technologically, but also morally and spiritually as well. Spiritually? Wouldn't the existence of aliens disprove God? You think God can't make aliens? Or maybe aliens are angels, huh? Alright, so God makes aliens, and they might be angels. Humans aren't normally seen as worse than angels, though. How do you figure? If God judges us worthy of becoming angels like St. Peter, then we must be just as good. I hadn't thought of it like that. Could be all bull, though. Will that be everything? Actually, might be passing through late on my way back. Any place good to stay around here?
I don't think there's anything to read into too hard there. Just some hilariously mundane and just poorly thought out deep convo that can only be shared between strangers. In the conversation regarding the burnt down hotel, I'm now reminded why this inquiry made me think about my ambiguity theory. It was these two choices. They contradict each other. But despite that, neither say lie before them. That was my usual spot, and I always meant to stop there. Maybe one character, perhaps the gun lady, was somebody used to drifting and traveling, frequenting that spot. And the other character, perhaps the smuggler, is a more stationary local, never really having a need to go to a motel, only just recently doing a bunch of driving and, hey, wanted to check it out. If not for anything, they're waffles. Let's go ahead and play this out.
I always meant to stop there. That waffle sign, man. Oh yeah, best waffles in the county, possibly the world. I never tried to stop anywhere else. Well, if it ain't waffles, you can buy 4 ounces of jerky for $10. Local deer, it's a steal. Deer jerky? Sure, sounds good.
God, this is so great. I feel like we're just talking past each other. Because while he's talking about jerky, all of a sudden we can lie about preferring pancakes over waffles. But I think regardless of our choices, it leads to the comment about our friend filling up at the pump. However, when he asks us where we are headed, we can lie. I chose sightseeing past the border.
And be sure you check out the Electric Rocks. Electric Rocks? Tourist attraction south of the border. I only just heard about it myself. Apparently it was some ancient ground for shamans who communed with beings from another world. Aliens, I'm thinking. The aliens from that book of yours? One and the same. I'll have to check it out.
Electric rocks communicating with beings from another world. Maybe us, the player? I'm a bit too stuck on no, I'm not human. Now, in some other footage, I'm more open to his theories about aliens, and this causes him to tell us his theories about some pyramids south of here.
Huh, great point. Yep, I'm almost done with the book. There's all sorts of stuff in here I didn't know. Did you know that the pyramids south of here are dormant alien nests? We can ask him, not landing pads? That's just a myth Eric here says is spread as a false flag to cast doubt on the existence of aliens.
Again, I think this talk of aliens is just some slight foreshadowing of a particularly freaky sequence. When he asks us where we're headed, if we lie about going dune buggy driving with friends, he just reminisces on the times he used to dabble in buggies himself. In all cases, the small talk is cut short with the next sequence.
Stumbled upon some pretty interesting dialogue. This is in reference to us saying that aliens don't exist. That's what we're supposed to say, isn't it? Wink. Oh, right on, right on. But I've seen aliens, you know. Did they probe you? Very funny. That's a false flag operation perpetrated by people who are trying to cover up the existence of aliens. So the rumors about aliens aren't true? Most of them aren't. According to this book, the only constant with aliens is missing time and radio interference. All that other stuff like Roswell and alien pyramid landing pads, that's all just myths. Make note that the two things that were kind of confirmed are interference and the losing of time. Losing of time will be pretty self-explanatory in how we explore this game, and it's sort of paratopic, topsy-turvy, atemporal way of telling its story. But the interference, radio interference, video interference, we're going to play with that too, and it centers around this strange character that I'm talking about that I think is associated with this alien that he saw.
While the driving sequences I think are more clearer, ironic phrasing there, but clearer in their ambiguity, I'm very torn when it comes to these gas station pit stops. If we are playing as any individual character in these gas station pit stops, I'm leaning towards the smuggler, but we'll see some dialogue options, especially in a later pit stop, that point towards it being either character. Again, going back into that ambiguity aspect. Not super important, honestly. The pit stops are basically a punctuation to the monotonous punctuations that are those driving sequences. Anyways, moving on.
I guess I should mind my own business. It's alright. Now this is a really cool scene.
With the end of the gas station sequence, we appear suddenly out on the side of the road. It's nighttime and we're pulled over with a mysterious crate inside our trunk or bed.
It is a camera.
This is the same camera that the gun lady had in front of her at the diner. Now, this may tempt us to say that we are currently playing as the gun lady, but I'll go ahead and say this now. Currently, we're playing as a new third minor character. We'll call her the Bird Watcher. If you notice, her crate also doesn't have a label on it. It's a blank crate. This isn't the same crate that the strange syndicate used to smuggle tapes. So, as far as I know, the Bird Watcher is a totally innocent, unrelated bystander. Some fun details. If instead of heading into the forest like we're supposed to, if we walk down either side of the highway or wander into the darkness at the beginning of the sequence, the game goes all glitchy and resets us back to our original position. I think doing this a couple of times causes a strange audio cue and indicates an achievement. But yes, we're meant to head into the forest. Taking a few steps in, we skip to the depths. If we 180, we can explore a bit of whence we came, but nothing interesting sticks out to me. Pressing forward, we can take pictures of crows. We must take a picture of 6 to get an achievement. In addition, there's this gray bird that we must follow to progress the level. I forgot how I got the achievement. I first played this game back in 2023, but there's an achievement for taking a picture of the gray bird mid-flight, and it's harder than one might anticipate. Because I think the game is aware when you're looking at something, and specifically when you're aiming in with the camera. Because I'll sort of approach from afar with the camera zoomed in and just spam pictures, thinking at any moment the bird will fly and I'll get that snapshot. But it seems to wait for me to be distracted or put down the camera to fly off.
Okay, see, it plays around with the fact that you can and can't, like, so this game is highly aware of like what you're looking at when you're looking at something or looking away from something, and I really like that. I really like that. Like, that speaks to me.
I don't know, it just seems like some pretty complicated coding to track player vision, and so I appreciate the effortful touch. I think something similar plays a role in whether or not the items in our car change while driving, although I've seen items change in front of my eyes before. It's a silly thing to dwell on, but it'll come up for a pretty solid scare later in this sequence. Anyways, walking deeper, we see a strange shack, and behind the shack we can see a bunch of big cargo containers. All of them with that mysterious company logo. Strange. In the shack we can find a mattress, some canned food, and a bunch of, well, what looks like bales of hay, or maybe just some set dressing that's shack related. I wonder who this is for? A hideaway for one of our other characters? Not sure. Going down some stairs, we're faced with a locked door. However, when we spam click on it a bit and then leave the shack, we can hear the door mysteriously open. Here I'm playing around with triggering the door opening so I can catch a glimpse of it when it opens. I don't know, Paratopic brought the playtester out of me, I guess. We open a second door that like folds in before opening, which doesn't make any sense, but oddly satisfying to look at. We go down some spiral stairs which give me flashbacks to being attacked by skeevers in Bleak Falls Barrow. Hopefully we don't catch ataxia. And come face to face with a scenery that's grim compared to the forest atop.
Oh, I love this game so much. It's just like so refreshing.
You know what it is? I think after so many just deep dive heavy hitters, it's just nice to vibe with a simple, vaguely confusing game. Entering the sanctum of this hidden underground tunnel, we witness a strange non-Euclidean area. At least I say it's non-Euclidean, because when we look up, we see that there's a hole, like piercing the surface. And I have some footage too. I don't recall seeing any like sort of hole up top. Maybe the hole is somewhere like out of the bounds of what we can walk into. I thought maybe the hole would be on the other side of these cargo containers, but we can actually access the other side. So I don't know. Something about like the placement of this hole from underground just doesn't make sense to me. but I'm like 95% certain there's an explanation and I'm just overthinking it. Speaking of holes, this room has a hole in the center with a busted ladder, like a pit to hell. And there's also this big kind of tipped over, damaged, or destroyed really, like big, I don't know, it looks like a power core, but again, that's just me thinking of Skyrim now, like that, the Dwemer power core or dynamo cores. It could just be some past decorative globe or sphere that hung from the top of this sanctum. But now it's of course fallen to the ground and in a state beyond discerning. But honestly, given that we're going to learn that this is this used to belong to an electrical company or the power company, I'm thinking that this is some sort of, I don't want to say sci-fi, I'm sure stuff like this exists, but some sort of spherical device or part to some electrical facility or equipment. The innards that are hanging out kind of look like wires or kind of various ribbons. Ribbons. Holy crap, tapes. Okay, just because it's a flat line does not suddenly mean that everything is VHS tapes. Okay, anyways. It's very easy to miss this, but this is required for an achievement. There's this breaker that we can interact with that restores power to the room and power to specifically this panel of buttons. Interacting with the panel begins a pretty cool secret sequence.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. My name is Dr. Algernon Kane. On behalf of the power company, I'd like to welcome you to our humble project. You're here because you believe in the future. That makes... We are, all of us, working towards the future. Though our roles may be very different. To fight for a better future. Your supervisor will brief you in more detail after this message. Thank you once again for the sacrifices you've made. Because of you, the future is bright.
Those tones, those tones, you know? It's just fantastic. It's very well done. I just love how stylish this game is, and I'm just happy to be digging into it after so many years of it just sitting on my list. Now, there's not much here, but we now have a name to associate with this company logo. Power Company, of course. I no longer think that the resemblance of the logo to a power button symbol is a coincidence. There's something about this strange defunct company, or at least enigmatic company of this defunct bunker, that revolves around electricity, power, but maybe even existence itself. Reality. A broader way of looking at the word topic. Perhaps I'm gathering too much influence from No, I'm Not Human and Who's Lila. But hey, the power button, the show starts when the light is on. I can't help but feel like maybe the company, the power company, tapped into another dimension, our dimension, to gather energy. Attention. No, too headcanon-y. On the off chance I'm overthinking it, I'll just go ahead and also posit that this might just be a broader clandestine power and resource company that hides its mystery behind platitudes like a bright future and a better tomorrow. Perhaps the defunct nature of this particular bunker, the abandoned, destroyed, and dented cargoes, might not be some highfalutin theme of entropy, a world dying, but just a foreshadowing of some sort of escaped subject, an unknowable discovery that turned on its discoverers. Perhaps something dire that was found at the bottom of the pit. Let's go ahead and shout out the power company and try and figure out their scope of influence, who they back and who operates against them. Right now I'm of the mind that they're sort of a shadow of their former self, if there even exists a power company anyways, executing these smuggling operations of their tech, their info through these tapes, but through these silly diners. Perhaps the smuggler is related to a former worker or scientist, or debtor to the power company, and therefore inherited their debts. Not sure about that one, but one thing is for certain. If there does exist remnants of this power company, there is a wrench in their plans, and that wrench is the gun lady. Well, we pry ourselves from this mystery and continue our hike along a river. This is that body of water I was referring to when we were overanalyzing the zodiac cards. Getting to the edge of the cliff, we see a fantastic set piece. This leaning windmill, clearly defunct, not really giving power to anything or having any use, just ominously turning from the latent momentum of its tilt and just whatever gust it might be picking up from the canyon. Just take it all in. Again, I just love the little touches. It makes the game special. Now, atop this cliff, at the, each end, it leads to a dead end. However, we can make our way down to the lower depths of the forest through this winding but treacherous switchback. Before that, though, I want to take a closer look at some of the stuff in the distance.
Ooh, there's something over there. Some strange building of sorts. I'm not sure, though. Strange dome-shaped building. That could be the power company or something.
Moving along into that switchback takes us immediately to another driving session. But what are those strange structures? The big, dark, rectangular building might be some sort of secluded mansion. I believe there's some very minor dialogue towards the very end that refers to it as such. However, to the right, we have this dome with pylons. It's just so, I really like that aesthetic. Sometimes I'll just be driving like in a lesser known city of California, and we'll drive by like a factory or some sort of plant, and I'll just turn to my buddy. I'll be with James typically. I'm always with my buddy James whenever we run into this stuff. I'll just be like, bro, where are we? I gotta film one of my video intros right in front of this factory one of these days. I don't know, I just like that sort of dilapidated, brutal imagery. I don't know if brutal is the right term. Here's some more footage of me just testing the boundaries and seeing what's beyond the limits of our game's collision parameters.
That'd be so cool. Doesn't look like there's not much of anything. I mean, I'm looking for like a T-Gotchi. Can we find like a T-Gotchi somewhere? Yeah, this reminds me of the Mystic Ruins, that second level of the Mystic Ruins in Sonic Adventure. Where like you jump off and then like some parts of it you fall through and then some you can walk on top of. There's definitely a Sonic emblem hidden around there somewhere. Oh, there's some over there actually. Or maybe not, I don't know. This is just really fucking cool for sure. There's a lot you can kind of glean. Young Glean. That's what if I became a rapper, I'd be Young Glean.
Let's make note of this bird watcher. I'm of the mind that she is a totally separate character from, of course, our gun lady. That'll be confirmed at the end of this game. But also totally separate from the smuggler, a third minor character. As far as her reasons as to why she's traveling through this forest, I'm thinking she's just an innocent bystander, just someone who is hiking, bird watching, and sort of stumbling upon the ruins of this unknown world. Without realizing it, finding herself in the midst of this court-out cabal. Could be wrong, though. She could be on some sort of secret assignment, maybe even tangentially related to whatever assignment the gun lady is on, or at least whatever faction she represents. We'll speculate later. Speaking of which, because she's in custody of her camera, I think it's pretty safe to say that this particular sequence takes place before that diner phone call sequence, and thusly the diner heist, with the camera being in the custody of the gun lady. Now, how did she get her hands on this camera?
Sorry, recall. Against Caesar Wall was
It's Galway. It's Galway.
Stu Carter.
It's Galway. It's tape. It's tape.
That's referencing a very specific, obscure internet video. I don't think anyone's gonna get it. If you do, though, okay, how about this? I'll give you a hint. Katana. That's all I'm gonna give you. That's all I'm gonna give you. In this game footage, we can see the gun on the seat, nothing that we haven't already covered, but here we see a good example of right when I look away, it disappears.
There's the box with the logo on it, there's a gun, and there's one variant with nothing in it. Okay, and then see it's disappeared now. Alright. I'm going on a picnic and I'm bringing apples. Can I bring grapes? Nope, you can't bring grapes. Can I bring a box that appeared on my seat out of nowhere? You can actually. Wait, what, really? Yeah. Crap, can I also bring a box? No, you can't, not anymore. Not anymore? What do you mean? Oh, can I bring soda? No. Can I bring a can of soda? Yes, you can. What? Why can he not bring soda, but he can bring a can of soda? It's just you have to figure it out. I think he figured it out though. Can I bring a cheese dip? No. Maybe if you were a bit more vague, like cheese sauce. No. Different direction. Just dip. You can bring dip. Why? Can I? Oh! Can I bring egg salad? Yes, you can bring egg salad. Can I bring falafel? You can bring falafel. Okay, but I can't figure it out. Oh, I get it now. Okay. Can I say it? Well, no. Wait till Kyle figures it out. I really think he can get this one. Okay, you could bring falafel. Can I bring shawarma? All right, I'm gonna give you a hint. Not yet. What do you mean, not yet? It's gonna be quite a bit of time before you can bring it. Start making more guesses. See if you can figure it out. Can I bring pickles? No, you can't bring pickles. Ooh, come on. Oh, I can't get him.
Now, to be fair to myself, that photo of the bird in flight may have counted, but because I got the achievement already in 2023, I'd have no feedback of knowing if it did count.
What, dude? Ah, fuck you. It's so frustrating, dude. And it's over there now. Look at that. This game really plays around with like looking at stuff and not looking at stuff. Like, I don't know, man.
Actually, is it an owl? Maybe it's not an owl. I don't know, but it looks interesting. Ah! Fucker! Continuing on as the birdwatcher, it seems we've made our way to the bottom of the canyon. The waterfall that we saw at that previous cliff seems to continue on as a river, and said river travels through what seems to be countless stacks of cargo containers with that power company logo on them, and there are even some of these poles with security cameras, some of them bent, broken, and disabled, and some still in operation, slowly panning as they follow our movements. It's easy to get distracted in this particular sequence, what with how much there seems to explore, but touching each corner of the explorable bounds doesn't really give us anything extra. I didn't see any new details that revealed anything special to me, but it is a treat to just explore these bounds, even if it bears no fruit. Now, to give ourselves an idea of where we're at, to our right we can see the cliff where we were just atop, and to the left we can see that strange gray building, hanging off the forest in a way. Again, there are these various set pieces, pylons, camera poles, some cargo, all of them bent and broken. And so now I wonder if this strange being that we're about to encounter is responsible for said damage. I take a look around, absorb the scenery, exploring the other side of the river. We see these little docks and what looks like a tunnel or vent that I wish we could explore. But our journey is taking us up this switchback. Making it to the top, if we zoom in our camera, something seems to be interfering with it. There seems to be some sort of figure in the distance. On the floor we get a warning. Flipping it over, it's a danger sign. Flipping this sign over not only gets us an achievement, but also how we leave it in this sequence is reflected in a later scene when a different character explores the same spot, implying that this particular sequence takes place quite early in our timeline. I feel like I'm not explaining that properly, but you'll see what I mean. Now we can look at the being at a safe distance. There's nothing messing with our actual vision. It's specifically viewing him through a camera that distorts it. Strange, like he doesn't want to be immortalized digitally. Maybe something about the tapes is different from the digital camera. Again, bring us every trace. I'm so stuck on that phrase. I think I'm getting caught up in like the highfalutin theory stuff. This is clearly just your run-of-the-mill, spooky camera static making monster. Now don't worry, I will dull any upcoming jump scares. It's mostly auditory, if anything. In this footage, I try and outsmart the monster. I look down with my camera, zoom in. If you notice, when you're looking at the floor, you don't get staticky, and then I quickly look it up with it zoomed all the way in, trying to get as close a view as possible before the static kicks in, and we get punished for that.
Ah, I see. That's very cool. So, wow, the game knows that you're trying to do something.
I'm very impressed. The devs thought of this as a possible thing that somebody might do. Because when we try and do that little maneuver, the monster will disappear with a ding and then shortly jump scare us, striking the poor bird watcher in the face and ending the sequence. Before this attempt at me being cheeky, I was always just aware that when you walk up to the monster, it causes it to disappear and then jump scare you. So it's cool that trying this little fast one is equally punished. Now here in my second piece of footage, you can see me approach it normally, but also, because we're nice and close, you can see on the left inside this barn, there is a red, maybe bloody, logo or diagram that we first saw in the menu screen of Paratopic. That sort of intricate occult variant of the Power Company logo. Or I guess, really the Power Company logo is like a corporate neutralized variant of an occult symbol. In footage 3, just for shits and giggles, I just back up into the being and you can hear him ding and then we get jumped. In footage 4, I test out my sneaky method again, and I just thought I'd show all of those for posterity. Since writing the script, I've been doing a little bit more collecting footage. I have a 5th piece of footage where I try to kind of, because if you notice, he jump scares you, he appears behind you. So I tried standing with my back facing a wall or something so I could see if he clips through it or something like that.
He clipped through the thing.
but all that's besides the point. After the birdwatcher is attacked, we head into one more final road trip sequence. The birdwatching sequence is the only time we ever get to truly look through the eyes and perhaps the lens of the birdwatcher. And since her attack, evidently her death, this is the last time we'll see of her until the finale of this game. Let's go ahead and chart out this mysterious being. I take a couple of artistic liberties with my whiteboard depiction of him. However, in the game, he has these sort of minotaur-like legs. But yes, I think this kind of leg is called ungulograde, at least that's what I was able to find on the internet. It's hard to tell with the sort of polygonal PlayStation graphics, but to me, his body, his texture, strikes me as kind of almost goopy. But aside from that, I think it's pretty safe to say he's got the ability to teleport, he can interfere with electronics, maybe there's something sort of, magnetic tape in the VHS kind of aspect, or maybe just broadly electrical. Again, sort of linking the demonic to the energetic. But here's a big question. Is he a discovery or an invention of the Power Company? Well, I think it's safe to say, at the very least, this monster is what led to its demise. Sorry, one more thing that stuck out to me. Note how the specific subject that the birdwatcher was concerned with was crows. If you remember, in that post-title card sequence, when we're playing as the gun lady looking out the window of the diner, we see what I think is the cadaver of the birdwatcher being consumed by crows, which, I mean, when you remind yourself of the bring us every trace angle, it's very regurgitative, if that makes, if that's even a word, / makes sense. The birdwatcher made the crows a subject of her desire to immortalize through these pictures and through these memories, these photos. And after her death, the crows have come to kind of reclaim and the traces of that. I don't know. I'm being pretentious. But keep in mind, though, beyond that, keep in mind, if we are to interpret the body outside the diner as the birdwatcher's body, which I think is highly likely, then we keep in mind the fact that it's in a spot it's not supposed to be in. Obviously, the birdwatcher died in the forest on that little cliff hill thingy next to that barn. What's she doing being consumed outside the diner? Well, we already have our answer. It's a paratopic sequence of events. A story that's at odds with dimension itself. It's hard to tell with the naked eye, but the medium binds to the cloth. It layers upon itself, and so you build up from the background to the 3-ground.
I think you mean the foreground.
No. You're thinking of the 5-ground. That's the piece of wood that normally goes around these works.
Well, what's that thing at the top?
Oh, that? This is where we home. Or something like that. But why is it so small then? What? When we home. How the hell are we gonna fit in there? It's all about perspective. Watch. Look! How the fuck is he doing that?
How the fuck should I know?
Perspective.
It's the guy in the painting.
No, it's the museum. Are you with the museum?
Yes, the deal is simple. Take a book, leave a book. Give me a relic, I will give you a relic.
Psst, hey, give him something good, like one of your paintings.
Yeah.
What? No, come on, if you give him something good, he'll give us something good.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. You're clinging to the old world. It didn't value these relics the way we value them now.
Okay then, take this. If what you say is true, then the relic that you give us in return shouldn't reflect the uselessness of the needle I just gave you.
Incorrect, all the way through. You still cling.
I knew it. A useless trinket. What does this tell us about the old world? Yippee! It's a feast. It's a feast. Bangarang!
Private plane for the boss.
Boss? The guy from the museum, he came and he said that we have to let go. Here. Eat. I think it might help.
Yeah, I can show you how the Colf is in. The Colf is in. The fix is in on the Colfs. Oh, professional golfing. Oh yeah, AVGM. My favorite is James Colf. The Colfing and the Colfing Macaulay Culkin. You know, the host of this show is Macaulay Culkin. Johnny Coltrane and Macaulay Culkin on the cough syrup hour. I'm going on a picnic, and I'm bringing. This reminds me of that one game. It's that one game where like you're driving and there's a bunch of like these fish-headed guys chasing you down. I think you're like a bunny. If you like out of bounds of your own head, you realize you're a bunny. And there's like a babushka, and she has like a husband. There's like 2 levels. I forget what it's called, but this reminds me of that.
I'm thinking about Beware. It's a fantastic indie game. It's Colwyn. Alright, you need to get the Colwyn. Get the Colwyn back. Put Colwyn back on the phone. It's cold. It's fucking cold. I really can't, baby, it's cold outside. I wanna go, baby, it's cold outside. I wanna go, baby, it's cold outside. I might go, baby, it's cold outside. I wanna get you wow to break the spell, baby, it is cold outside. I want to say cold, 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 cold. Mind if I cold, 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 cold. Least it's just a half a cold more. What's the point of colding my cold? Skipping to the end, not only do we complete the final driving sequence, but we also enter the final gas station sequence. Outside, we can see that our car, or a car, is parked out by one of the pumps, and there's a mysterious figure standing there. Maybe you can't make it out on this footage, but it looks like the monster that we saw in the previous sequence. Could just simply be some bleeding in between sequences, a character, a set piece, from a different topic, different location, paratopically bleeding into a different sequence, a different event that it does not belong in. Similarly to how we could see the cadaver of the birdwatcher being at the diner. Not sure, but let's go ahead and talk to the attendant.
You filling up on 4? Yeah. Who you traveling with? I'm on my own. Sure, right. You're not from around here. What makes you say that? Folks out here wouldn't need to ask about burgers. I think implying that we were the character from before, asking about Bill's Burgers or Burgers Bill's or whatever. Suppose not. So, what are you here for? Just passing through.
So we insist that we're on our own despite being shadowed by that strange figure at our pump. Now, the attendant clocks that we can't be from around here because of our inquiry regarding good places to eat, specifically regarding Burger Bill's. I can't help but feel the two options, suppose not, affirming we don't come from around here, and I haven't lived here in a long time, implying we used to be a local, are meant to be associated with either protagonist. I'm leaning towards the smuggler being a former local and the gun lady being a total stranger around these parts. But I also think I'm overthinking it. I'm thinking it.
Well, before you go, you really ought to check out some of our many local attractions. You have many local attractions? Yep. Are you interested in giant balls of twine? So if we say, no, I'm not interested in giant balls of twine, it's actually, I guess we'll be lying if we say that, which is funny. No, I'm not interested. Well, it's not the world's largest ball of twine or anything, but they thought it was for a long time until they found out it wasn't. Plus, no one's sure how it's got there. It just showed up one day. When you say it wasn't, what do you mean? Well, they thought it was a big ball of twine, but someone found some yarn on it too. So it's big, but it's also not 100% twine. And it's heavier than it should be. Nobody knows why. And you said it just showed up? Yeah, this was about 10 years ago. A big ball of twine showed up in the park downtown in that big gazebo. Probably a prank or something like that. Like I said, though, it wasn't just a big ball of twine.
Part of me wonders if that big sphere with those strands hanging out of it back at the underground facility is said ball of twine. Maybe. Very soft maybe. This could also just be some nonsensical dreamlike prattle.
What else do you got? Well, there's the milk store, the state park, the ghost carnival, and the museum. The milk store? Yeah, it's a store, but they only sell milk, milk products, and milk accessories. Milk? Yeah, you know, milk. Comes out of mammals. The milk store has pretty much any kind of milk you could want. They own a farm out in the county. And they have all sorts of animals that make milk. You can buy the milk at the milk store. Milk products. Like cheese and yogurt, you know? Milk accessories. Yeah, like milk bottles and milking pails and such. Okay. Now, that isn't all we got.
Maybe that's where we can get the lowland milk for the cereal that we can buy here.
What's there to do at the state park? Hunting and fishing, I guess. Camping, too. Drugs, maybe, if you're into that.
State park. I wonder if that's where the birdwatcher sequence takes place. Maybe.
Tell me about the museum. Oh, yeah, it's real neat. I don't know if you remember the electrical company, but there's a lot of stuff people find in the woods sometimes. They bring it back and put it in the museum. It does weird stuff sometimes. What kind of weird stuff? Just weird stuff. You should check it out yourself.
Okay, fascinating. So there are people who go into the woods to explore the remnants of the power company and bring back relics to this museum.
Maybe that's who the gun lady represents, the museum. She's a procurer of these artifacts, but does not settle just for leftover relics of the past. No, she wants to fully seize every last trace. Or at least whoever's on the phone wants that. Robbing these remnants of the power company of these anomalous tapes. Power company versus the museum. But I may be just trying to do the media analysis equivalent of making fetch happen. In other words, getting floppy with it.
What's a ghost carnival? Yeah, we used to have this old carnival that would travel the state every summer. Then winter just outside of town. Anyways, the lady who owned it got sick, so she had them set it up on her farm, and then she died, and everyone just sort of moved on. The kids say it's haunted.
I thought Ghost Carnival was going to be something spooky. It's just tragic. Rest in peace, old lady.
I was thinking it was going to be something like that one episode of Yami Shibai, That Side Festival. My favorite episode of the whole series. It's a fantastic horror series. If you really like it and you want to play a video game that has that same vibe, World of Horror. Oh, I want to do a video on it so bad, but it's such a hard game. Anyways.
Well, it's time for me to get going. Yeah, looks like your friend has finished fueling up. Thanks. Need anything else before you go? No, but you guys get much business these days?
It just doesn't end. It's so great. Okay, bye. Also, one more thing. Okay, bye. Oh, but one more thing. But this next bit of convo might be useful, having to do with the power company.
Being off the highway helps. When the electrical company shut down, that didn't help us none. Wasn't there some kind of an accident? Yep. Must have been, what, 14 years ago now? But nobody really knows what went down? Nope. Oh. I can't stay here forever. I better go. You two drive safe now.
Now it ends right there, going into the next sequence, but I don't even want to show the very beginning of it just yet. In some other footage, I try and get a better look at the monster, but the footage is just too compressed. Just trust me, in the gameplay, it certainly looks like that monster. Now, when we say that we're not from around here, he repeats the comment he made about the item that we've interacted with last. I think in this case, it was the potato chips. And the responses are just so strange. It doesn't match up with what he's saying.
Sure, right. You're not from around here. No. Ever wonder why the potato chip bags are mostly full of air, but corn chip bags are always so full? Still trying to figure that out. Well, rent around these parts is cheap, and people mostly keep them themselves. I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, I see now. He's giving us the pros of living in the area, either moving into or moving back into the area. Skipping ahead, we ask why the power company left.
Yeah, the biggest employer in the state, right? Why they leave? Nobody really knows. I've heard ghost stories and all. Personally, I think the plant was given to the aliens, as a gift, you see? Unbelievable. That's your opinion. Well, I can't stay here forever. I better go. You two drive safe now.
You know, this could be a tongue-in-cheek way of hinting towards us that this power company, their operation had to shut down, come to ruin, because of aliens. In other words, that mysterious, violent monster. Nothing that we haven't already theorized, but it's nice to hear the game also posit something similar.
In some alternate dialogue, when he says that we're not from around here, if we say that we used to be, he'll ask us why we left. And we have a couple of options. We can say that we needed work or family stuff. Neither of these are lies. I think both of these are associated with either one of the protagonists. Family stuff may be referring to the past debts that the smuggler inherited. Needed work, I would say, is associated with the gun lady. My argument for that would be because of the vagueness of the answer, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and also the other option being a handyman.
I feel like there's something there. Handyman, a fixer? I don't know. It's all very ambiguous, and I love it for that reason. We need not dwell any longer. Let's see this to the end.
I can't stay here forever. I better go. You two drive safe now.
We've continued from the sequence right before the title card. The gun lady breaks into the back door of the diner, kills the manager, and we can secure these tapes. We can get a better look at that diagram and see those crates all over the room. This is clearly some sort of operational outcropping of whatever's left of the power company. And now that we've stepped behind the curtain, we can see the occult layering atop the corporate on this diagram. Now, in order to complete this sequence, we have to take the tapes and put them into the player a few times. Each time it goes back to when we first shot the manager. After the third time, we then cut back to the opening sequence where the Border Patrol guy watches the tapes, against the advice of the smuggler. Loose ends are being tied in more ways than one. Real quick though, in some other footage I mess around with the physics of the game. If we shoot the hand, for example, the guy actually just straight up loses his arm. Like, the gore is based on where you shoot him, which is so cool. Again, small time indie stuff like this can do fine without those little touches, but when they do, I want to make sure that I show appreciation for it. You know, it reminds me of this game, Rune. It's like this old Viking game that had a pretty nutty gore physics and I think it's called jibbing or gibbing system. I don't know. I love it. There's something nostalgic about it. And there's really something in each of these sequences that I really enjoy. Now, in this third bit of footage, I noticed that the manager seems to back away from us in a linear fashion.
Okay.
Check this out.
I have an idea. There's gotta be a funny way. There's gotta be a way we can, like, make this goofy. So, he's walking away from us, right? If we let him kind of move this way. Crap, I'm trying to like scoop him. I'm trying to scoop correctly. I'm trying to scoop him out. All right, let's get him. Don't you move! Oof. There's just straight up strawberry cake in there, dog. That's crazy. There's like full-blown physics, like depending on where you get them. All right, anyways. What the frick? Huh? That's nuts. I don't know what the hell is going on, how he's like moving around. So that must mean he's an alien. Therefore, YouTube, you can't demonetize me. Look at that, he's adjusting himself. He's like, 1 sec, oh, fuck. That's so strange. I think it's just the physics engine is borking out, but isn't that interesting though?
I think I've already mentioned this. Since writing the script, I've actually collected some more footage, and I found a little funny glitch.
Giant shit. Whoa, finally we can play. Nice, we're playing with Colwyn. Hell yeah. Hey, fuck you. No!
That's too bad. I fuss around with the various set pieces one final time, but yes, we cycle through the tapes until...
Be seeing you, friendo.
Whoa, okay, we're moving pretty fast. This is the very final sequence, right before the credits. Let's rewind the tape for a moment, figuratively speaking. Or literally, too. Then we'll take inventory. So, after the heist, we cut back to the end of that opening sequence. The custom guy, or agent, comes out clearly affected by the tape he watched, but in a much more damaging and brutal fashion than our addict neighbor. He must have watched the juicy one. The way he lumbers and comes apart at the seams, like it twists. It's like he's like fraying, and he dissipates into into the air. He becomes like part of the waveforms, and I think that's kind of like almost how he's able to put the words on the screen, giving his final message to us through the TV, referring to us as he did in the beginning, friendo. I love it. What a great finale.
And I mean it when I say finale, for if my model is correct, this diner finale, the finale to this heist, and the interrogation finale where we see the Border Patrol agent transform are the final events for the gun lady and the smuggler respectively. The gun lady succeeding in her heist, securing the tapes, every last trace, and the smuggler, depending on your interpretation, seeming to escape consequences and even be freed perhaps from his bondage to the diner operation. The gun lady landed the final blow to whatever is left of this power company, and I'm of the mind that she is the enemy that snitched on the smuggler, thusly tying up a loose end, either doing him a favor if she knew that the agent was going to watch the tapes, or perhaps it was her plan for him to get jailed, again, sort of tying up any loose ends with this operation.
Nonetheless, the true finale of the game Paratopic is our gun lady wandering through the woods with her gun. Every time we make progress forward, the game skips us further along, sort of implying that the events of this game that we're experiencing are kind of like in that VHS formatting. Also, another little detail, I'm not sure if I have game footage of this, But one thing that's quite unique about this gun lady forest sequence is that unlike the birdwatcher sequence, all of the cameras are disabled. All the security cameras are shut down. Maybe the gun lady has similar properties to the monster, disabling recording equipment maybe. When we make our way up to that farmhouse where the monster was, since in the birdwatcher sequence we flipped over the sign, it's flipped over here, implying that this sequence is taking place after. And so if that's the case, then the cadaver before us must be the birdwatcher. She didn't watch any tapes, and yet it almost looks like she was affected by it. It's hard to make heads or tails of what happened to her. You can see her arm, it kind of like is tendrily. It's not just that she was like flayed or anything. Her hands kind of tendril and like wrap around, and they're still kind of moving, undulating. Since we can freely explore, I take a gander behind the barn to get a better look at this strange facility. Like, I wish we could just get up in there and explore, but yes, to complete this sequence, we must go to the cadaver and pick up her camera.
This is emergency services. What's the address? It's in the woods, past the old concrete meat works. Would that be the mansion off the Highway 69? Yes, that sounds about right. State the nature of the emergency, please. I was hiking and there's this a body. It's all torn up. I think it was a girl. A girl? Is she breathing? No, she's dead. She's a mess. Ma'am, you sound calm. That's good. Can I get your name? You need to get someone out here. I'll have someone out there in a jiffy. Now, if I could just get a name, ma'am. Ma'am? Ma'am?
So the building behind the barn must be a concrete meat works, or maybe a butchery, or meat processing plant. But then she mentions a concrete mansion. Strange. But the paratopography is not the essential detail of the paratopic at hand. She's calm, a killer, a fixer. I kind of have half a mind that she might have been the one to kill the birdwatcher. Like, the monster is one of her forms, and this is like a different, like a Jekyll and Hyde view of that sequence, or the events following that sequence. Maybe not, though. She did take the camera, which, to me,
places this final sequence, the discovery of the birdwatcher's body, before that very early sequence, the diner phone call, where we see the gun lady with the birdwatcher's camera just having got back from a hike.
Before continuing with my final thoughts on Paratopic, I want to give some fan art shoutouts. Starting off with Chudo Love, we've got a really cool piece depicting you, the beloved viewer, as a sort of piggy bank. My hackneyed theories are coins kept in mind for safekeeping. I love it. Thank you for this. We've got a cup of squiggles on Neo Cities with this wonderful piece. Like, something about the style feels very early 2000s, like this belongs on the cover art for a CD-ROM typing game. The peacock enters the physical medium with dudeboy_guyman on Instagram with this fantastic wire and bead art of the channel mascot. Thank you. And then we're back into the virtual medium, but in a way I've never seen before. The peacock can now be your cursor. Thank you to Love Cubus. You can check out their RW designer page for the super cool cursor pack themed after the pixel peacock. We've got a work in progress sketch of the Fool Tarot card. I already love how this looks. I'm excited to see the final piece. This is from Orange. Thank you very much. We've got a piece inspired off of that Always Sunny conspiracy theory board scene, but of course with me and the peacock. You know, I feel like I get this like every other shout-out segment, but I never get tired of it. It just fits. This is from Esterby on Blue Sky and Tumblr. And now a smattering of various pieces inspired by the many topics I've covered. And man, I'm so lucky to have front row seats to people's creativity like this. We've got Anna returning with a fantastic, colorful piece inspired off of my anti-duende hatred displayed in my coverage of Home Safety Hotline. Thank you to Cake Pops and Manga on Blue Sky and Tumblr, double dipping into Home Safety Hotline and No I'm Not Human. It's Christmas. What's wrong with this hot weather? In the theme of double dipping, we've got I Organize Content UK on YouTube, returning with a physical piece inspired by the Act 2 variants of the Scribes of Inscription, which I forget how friggin' hard Act 2's pixel art went. Thank you for the reminder. And in addition to that, they've uploaded a DDR chart for Hypnospace Outlaws Xmas Medley, my favorite cool punk track. And last but not least, we have the rare Blender Pool 3D art by Jack Draw, based on the various half-animal characters from Rusty Lake, which is going to be relevant later in this video. Speaking of which, I also want to thank Rusty Lake Studios for sending me some Rusty Lake memorabilia, including a vinyl of all the greatest hits. You'll see me feature it very soon in the finale of this video. Now, if you have any fan art, the only way to get them to me is through email. That's flawpeacock222@gmail.com. I don't and won't ever use social media, at least in my capacity as a YouTube guy. No Discord, no Twitter, no IG. I prefer the impersonal, leisurely formatting of email. Forgive me for being a dinosaur. Again, that is flawpeacock222@gmail.com. Now, continuing on with my final thoughts on Paratopic.
Oh, and by the way, I don't care that you broke your elbow. The only extra detail is at the end of this credit sequence we hear some noises, like a tape being spit out, kind of to me implying that all of these disparate paratopic vignettes are experienced through something akin to a tape. Maybe not literally, but figuratively. No duh, it's a Steam game. While I think that mysterious VHS noise is important for my crown jewel theory regarding Paratopic, there still is very much a mysterious surface level, if you can really call it that, story being told through its characters and vague factions. So let's start here. First, the most grounded part of the story, the smuggler. It's obvious that he's working off some sort of debt, probably inherited from a family member or just a loved one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain that, like, if your parent has a bunch of debt, if they pass away, their children don't inherit it. At least not, like, directly. This is something that's practiced among criminal or otherwise illicit organizations. This power company of which our smuggler is enthralled by. And so his station in life is to deliver these tapes across the border. Tapes that contain within them forbidden knowledge, eldritch information that makes people go insane or their bodies to transform. With it some, I guess, addictive euphoric aspects to it as well. But of course he doesn't make it past the border because of a tip. You've got an enemy, friendo, that enemy being the gun lady. But we'll get into her a bit later. What of this seedy diner-based syndicate? I'm of the mind that they are the sort of remnants of the power company. Not necessarily direct descendants, but like sympathetic outcroppings. The diner is to the power company as the Dawnstar Museum is to the mythic Dawn in Oblivion. Here's the thing though. Is their desire to smuggle tapes past the border an effort to spread them or get rid of them? I guess it depends on what angle you want to take. Like, surface level, it's easy to interpret this as just, regular old drug dealing operations. You have a contraband, you have a product, you want to ship it out, spread its use, and rake in the dough. If you're particularly villainous, you get off on the idea of everyone getting hooked on it and being negatively affected by it. So that would be like a literalistic, kind of like fictional common sense interpretation. But like symbolically, we can also see these tapes, what short supply there is, leaving this area, making it past the border as this world bleeding these tapes. In other words, bleeding reality. There's a shape of entropy there, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll save that for my crown jewel theory. What about this power company, of which I claim the diner is a sort of outcropping of? I think they're pretty self-explanatory, like in an artsy-fartsy show-don't-tell sort of way. They're a clandestine organization concerned with all things electricity, energy, and power. There's enough folding into them that implies some affinity to the occult, perhaps the energy that they get coming from the pits of hell itself, making me think of that strange pit in that bunker underneath that shack in the forest. Which then makes me ask the question, what about that monster? I think the most simple interpretation is that
in this company's effort to explore and excavate just into dangerous bounds, because, you know, fictional, vainglorious, science-y corporation trope, they found, or were perhaps found by, this strange monster from deep beneath. However, allow me to get a bit floppy. What if, in all of this Half-Life-esque science-y exploration, the power company was trying to find a way out of this reality? Or maybe tap into another dimension of which they can extract power from. Our dimension. So it wasn't that they found a monster. They dug a hole. They kept digging until they found that abyss. They realized that they were just mere figments in another person's dreams. 1/trillionth the size of an atom compared to the world that exists outside of their reality. And so what if this information made them go insane? It made them go so insane that it physically transformed them. What if that monster was once Dr. Algernon Kane, now transformed? Demon-roided out, Dramora-maxing, and thusly Daedra-mobbed his own company. Okay, that's certainly very headcanon-y. And I think all of my allusion to characters being in a game and then suddenly being aware that they're in a game is obviously educated or influenced by so many topics that I've covered on this channel, from Who's Lila to the Hex, Inscription, and of course, No, I'm Not Human. Still, something to consider. And then finally, the most mysterious character or aspect really of this whole game, the gun lady, and perhaps by extension that voice on the phone, but specifically in the intro, not the 911 dispatch person. I really like the idea of the museum being this organization or effort that's represented by the gun lady and her actions. You could even argue that the birdwatcher might be a part of the museum, but instead of collecting, like physically collecting relics, she takes pictures of the remnants of the power company, preserving them and their deeds, or what's left of them, in the digital format. But we're not talking about her, we're talking about the gun lady. The gun lady's station in life is quite simple. Bring us every trace. This operation involves killing that Backroom's diner manager and securing these tapes. The tapes that the diner, through the smuggler, wants to smuggle past the border. If we lean into this theory that the museum that the gas station attendant talked about is the organization that the gun lady is a part of, that they are like a mover and shaker, a palpable faction in this game's lore, I think the simplest interpretation is that they want to preserve any information or evidence of what this power company is guilty of. While in a sort of antagonistic way, the diner operation is kind of trying to do the opposite. If not get rid of the tapes, have them leave the area and spread whatever villainy they're meant to spread. So you have containment and preservation, and then you have spread and kind of, what's the opposite of infiltrating? Defiltration? Osmosis? I'm overcomplicating it. Just these two opposing forces. Cut and dry. But why does the gun lady cycle through 3 tapes? Why doesn't she herself transform from putting the tapes in and viewing their contents? This whole scene, it strikes me as if every time she puts the tape in and she's rewound back to the moment after shooting the guy, it's like she's being spared or given a mercy from that transformation, cycling through until she finds the correct tape. The correct tape being the sequence afterwards, the TV head Border Patrol guy scene. It's almost as if the tapes are the story, and the story is the tapes. But in order to explore that, I need to give you a little bit of a crash course on how tapes work, just simply how these little reels work. In an upcoming skit, I do go into a little bit of a lesson, but if you are familiar with my skits, there are going to be quite a few idiosyncrasies that might get in the way of the information. So let's go ahead, put some time aside, and really explore the nature of this oft erroneously considered primitive technology. It's actually quite impressive. Big shout out to Jarrett Owens for his video, a breakdown of not only the tapes, but also the VHS player. So like I said, we're just going to focus on the tape and then these 2 reels that kind of share this tape. When you put your VHS tape into your player, this little flap opens up. And you can see right there, that's where the movie is contained. The plastic stuff, that's for another purpose, like the clear stuff. But where that is, when that starts unraveling, it's like this black tape. And if you look at it under like a certain light, I can't see it with my naked eye, the information, not just the visual, but the audio information of the movie is transcribed in a very unique way onto that magnetic tape. It's very, very fascinating stuff, impressive stuff. Now, naturally, movies go in one direction, from start to finish. When you're playing a movie on Netflix or on a USB stick or whatever, you can start and stop anywhere in the movie. It's just this piece of data that you could just explore with your player. This process is fully mechanical and analog when it comes to the VHS. The movie literally travels from the reel, the supply reel, to the take-in reel. So this is where the term be kind, rewind comes in. When you play the movie to its extent, so in other words, fully exhausting the supply reel, the whole movie is then stored on the take-in reel, so you have to rewind it if you wanted to watch it from the beginning. So, in other words, the movie travels back and forth between these reels. I'm almost kind of reminded of like kinetic energy versus like potential energy. Now, again, just to reiterate, and I am going to be repeating myself in the skit, and I already am, but I want to really hammer this home. There is data that exists on the supply reel. It goes in one direction to the take-in reel. Once it's completed its transfer, now the data is fully on the take-in reel, so supply to take. And so in the opposite direction, the take-in reel feeds the data into the supply reel, and once that's completed, we're back at that initial position. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We'll soon build upon that model, but first, the penultimate skit of this video.
You ever wonder why videotapes look like a face? 2 white eyes and a flap for a mouth?
The eyes would be the reels.
Well, the technical term would be dolias. Every tape comes with a pair of them.
Right.
Using a non-sonic screwdriver, we can open up the VHS to see the tape is fully on the leftmost dolia.
For the sake of this demonstration, can we stick to just calling them wheels or reels instead?
Sure. So the leftmost reel is the supply reel. Naturally, the movie is contained within the tape, and so it has to unravel and feed into the rightmost wheel to project the movie into your player and thusly into your television.
I see. And so this is where it goes?
No. After many playthroughs and rewinds, the tape will slowly degrade, and when the movie is gone, it goes nowhere. It's gone forever.
What? The thing on the right.
Oh, you mean the take-in reel? Yes, naturally, when you play the movie, it has to unspool from the supply reel to the take-in reel. This is why back in the day, we said, be kind, rewind. If you wanted to play the movie again after it has been exhausted, you had to rewind, re-spool the tape, if you will, from the take-in to the supply. So yes, in a way, when you play the movie, you exhaust it. It puts it in a temporary state of death, only being able to be brought back, if recalled, back into the original position, preparing it for
another spin of the reel.
So yes, this is where it goes. Great. Stay here.
Hungry for some more?
Food isn't the problem, appraiser. This duck is...
I don't appraise. That's what you're doing. Much against my recommendations. I'm a deliverer.
Well, you can take back your dumb duck then. No, stop! It's against the rules.
I never said that. Returning what was given is a good sign.
Hey, if you don't mind, can this next thing be a dessert?
What I get from you might be your choice, but what you get from me is out of both of our hands.
Always with the excuses. I told you we should have used Serpentech instead. It's a feast. It's a feast. It's a feast.
Grab a plate for the boss.
I'm not leaving until you eat.
egg went to fucking waste. Eat. Quit pretending like you feel bad about the past. You're the reason why we're here. Now eat! To really appreciate the absolutely thematic cramming of this game into the simple model of this magnetic strip, we're going to have to be kind and rewind. When you first play this game, the road trip sequences kind of gum up the works a bit. It's this monotonous whirring as you wait for the next story beat to take place, much like the monotonous whirring of having to rewind a VHS tape. But that being said, something that stuck out to me about the driving sequences is that they do seem to have a linear kind of progression, going forward, not rewinding. Hear me out. The first sequence is in the thick of the city. On either side we see buildings and we're going on and off these ramps. There's the guardrails and stuff. It's like a freeway, thoroughly inland. Then the second driving sequence is in the outskirts of said city. One side of the road being peppered with gas stations and rest stops, and the other side the city can be seen, the congestion of buildings. But then in the third sequence, it's all just like dilapidated badlands. Pure nowhere. What really makes up the majority of any all-American road trip. So I interpret this as a road trip going away from the city and evidently to the border. From city to outskirts to badlands. While the presence of both the gun and box may signify the ambiguity of the road trip, who's driving the car, I think that the story on the road still goes in one direction. The smuggler's direction. In other words, from the city to the border. The supply side, the leftmost reel. And so how fitting that at the end of the game, we hear that sort of rewind-like noise. Reaching the end of the story, the game is now in that take-in stage, fully in the rightmost wheel. The story of the smuggler, the supplier of the tapes, starts inland, in the city. He's given his assignment at the diner, close to his apartment, and he goes in the direction of the border, away from the city. The story of the gun lady, the thief, the taker of the tapes, starts in the outskirts. It starts actually in the forest, away from the city towards the border. And so the game's story structure is like a VHS tape. All that being said, what are the core elements to these two factions, these two directions, pulling and pushing forces? The power company wants to distribute these tapes past the border, out of the city. And the museum, or perhaps just specifically the gun lady, wants to stop them from escaping the border, killing the internal operation of the power company, or its diner satellite operation, destroying the internal bleeding, the internal distribution of these tapes. And so I think that the tapes leaving circulation, leaving this sort of smuggling route, can be likened to the discernible data on a VHS tape slowly losing its discernibility. With every start and stop, play through and rewind, the magnetic strip, the fabric of reality, slowly fades away. Reality itself slowly bleeding into itself. Events of the past and the future blending into one another. Two diner conversations taking place at different times but at the same location at the same time? The only reason why the events of the game Paratopic can be described as paratopic is because it depicts a world on the precipice of entropy. Not quite totally gone, just almost out. I feel like we've gone over this specific kind of topic so many times on this channel. And yet we always seem to explore these familiar concepts in new and unique ways. I guess that's the beauty of video games. I'm sure that there are some kind of lore-related extrapolations we can gather from this. Perhaps the overall degradation of reality in the universe of Paratopic is such because of the meddling of the power company. Them trying to tap into the pits of hell and access some, meta-reality font of energy. Or maybe the reality that we are experiencing through the tapes, through this game, are truly contained within the tapes. Like me, a figure, a man, semi-sentient, trapped in your computer screen. The game itself being a snapshot of these almost two semi-sentient realities, factions,
images at war with one another. One that wants to be free of the tapes, and one that wants to preserve every trace, preserve it from that precipice of entropy. Or maybe this is truly a Lynchian experience and there are no true right answers, just a right attitude to go about, exploring. And with that, I think I've given all my thoughts on Paratopic. After so many heavy hitters, from The King in Yellow being this massive prequel to my coverage of Signalis, to the indulgent and decadent love letter to Hypnospace, from our submerging into Rusty Lake to our emotional delving into No, I'm Not Human. After all of that, it honestly just feels so nice to just jump into something a little less complicated. Let me know what you think. Keeping in a similar theme of long overdue topics, but not so long videos, the next topic is going to be David Lynch's Eraserhead. Now, it's been a while since I've done a movie, and believe it or not, Eraserhead will be the first David Lynch property or work that we'll be analyzing on this channel, which is crazy to think of how much I bring up David Lynch. And just like with this video, I also anticipate it being a dense but still ultimately shorter video than what you might be used to on this channel. But man, I already started on the script. It's gonna be special. I miss covering movies, and I am so happy to be jumping into Eraserhead. If there's any David Lynch thing to start with, it's with that one. But anyways, thank you all so much for your patience and your support. Until next time, ma'asalama, sudesutun, hasta luego, I'll see you soon.
This device has an arm that has a needle at the end of it.
Is that the same one that Four Eyes gave to the delivery guy?
No. As the disc spins, the needle drags between these grooves, which causes the needle to vibrate and the device to convert those vibrations into listener sound. The music!
But what happens when you run out of music?
It keeps spinning, silently, until you move the needle back.
Hurry up! You're making me miss a demonstration. I see. So the needle isn't actually what makes the music endless. It requires intentional manipulation. But the human input can't do it alone. That's why it needs the needle.
What are you talking about? This technology is otherworldly, and you're hung up on what? The music going on forever?
Well, what if I get sick of it? I'll go ahead and get the door.
Hello. Who are you?
No, please.
I've heard this song before. Before you ate this cake, I heard this song before. It's hard to see with the naked eye, but the medium binds to the cloth.